Well, greetings, everybody. Welcome to my classes, and we have a special guest today. This is Mark Sutton, a friend of mine for, not quite 10 years, if he'll own up to that. And he has taught me a lot over the time since we first met because he has taught me a lot about improvisation and how to use improv tools in daily communication, in the way you interact with people. And as you see from my syllabus, I built it into the way I try and teach. So welcome, Mark.
Hey,
I know you're also a teacher and have taught both obviously in person, but now also kind of online
yeah,
and with all the challenges. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then
yeah,
we'll talk about how we might use some of your talents.
yeah. Well, what's my story, right? I grew up in Indiana. I went to Indiana University, and I have two degrees: one in broadcast journalism and one in public and environmental affairs. And as you can tell, I use them both all the time. I got into comedy while I was in college for fun, and then decided to pursue it as a career. Moved to Chicago, which is kind of the hotbed of improvisation, especially back in the late '80s when I moved here, and have been doing it ever since. And for the last almost 16 years now, have been working for the Second City's business side, teaching, as you said, improvisation in the world of business and academia, and showing people how thinking and acting more like an improviser can be beneficial to the work that they do.
Well, that sounds like my classroom then. So one of the things that's a challenge online is this idea of, I'm not co-located. I'm not there right there with the people. I can't necessarily read the faces as fast. I may have them all up in the Zoom boxes, but trying to teach and then watch the Zoom boxes, you're constantly going back and forth, so you lose your eye contact and a lot of those kind of subtleties. And so one of the things my students struggle with though is also paying attention and how to and staying engaged in the course. And so I guess I have a couple of things for you to kind of talk to us about in terms of your experience and how you use your improv skills.
Mhm.
One is how do you navigate it? How do you make it more of a welcoming experience for the students that you're working with? And second, how can students find that little space where they can be a bigger part of the class in some way? Because I tend to focus not on participation in the classic sense of raise your hand and get the pellet. It's more about this idea of, okay, make a difference in class on that day. And not every day's a keeper. So if you can kind of think about
Yeah.
those two and give me your thoughts on that, I think that would be great.
Well, I think the last thing you said really drives the first point that you mentioned, and that
Okay.
is not every day is a keeper. Um, I think that we talk about this in our improv teaching as well, is that oftentimes when we're in a situation like we're in now, whether we're teachers or students or whatever that might be, when we've had something taken away from us, we've had the experience of that interconnected live learning taken away from us, and we've been forced to adapt. And when we're in a situation like that, the human tendency is to put a lot of energy and focus on all the things we can't do anymore. We can't be together, we can't be in the room together, we can't socialize as part of the class, we can't do a lot of those things that we used to do. And as humans, we get caught up in that. What we encourage people to do, and what I've tried to do as a teacher, and what I know that you've tried to do as well, is shift that mindset to embracing the opportunity that exists in this new format, this new world,
Right.
and moving some of that energy from what can I do to what can I do, and what can we do differently here. I know that at Second City, most of our teaching in this realm is done live. What we've discovered in the new visual format of this, in the virtual format, is we can incorporate video now, and we use comedic video of sketches and things like that to emphasize points. We can share screens, we can use animation, we can pull clips from the internet, things like that that can make it more than just you and I in boxes talking.
So
And
do
I
you,
think
so
I
do
think
you,
that's
do
a
you
huge
find
thing.
do you find yourself? preparing more in getting ready for a class because it's not as free flowing. You can't just show up and do the same thing over and over again. You know, you've got to think about the structure a little bit more.
Absolutely. When we made this transition, normally when we teach a class, I've got a little piece of paper in my pocket about this big, and it just
Yes,
has
I've
the
seen
bullet
that.
points. You've seen it, right? It has little bullet points, this exercise, then this exercise, then we're going to do this, and everything else just flows in the room. When I shifted to teaching this way, when I do a Zoom teaching session, my screen is split in half. And the bottom half of my screen is the Zoom, and the top half is my show flow, which is sometimes still just bullet points. Sometimes it's word for word. Now this is going to happen. And then I'm going to say these words specifically. So I've adjusted, and we all have adjusted in that way, uh, mainly because as you said, in this format, for some reason, it's harder to keep track of the flow and the timing and the feel of the class.
Yeah.
Um, and in a live class, I could tell you in a second, within a minute or two, where we are time wise.
Hmm.
On this, I'm constantly looking at the clock because it's easier to lose track of that. So I've had to be more disciplined and kind of approach each one of my classes more like a performance and a show than
Yeah.
a learning session.
Yeah. And I think that that's exactly right for me too. I always kind of thought of my live classes as live performance, but now it's, and people hate the term edutainment, but I think there's a little piece not about entertainment for us, but for making sure that students are engaged enough to see the learning and participate in the learning.
Yeah.
So, so what do you recommend then for your students? If we're trying to go to this idea of saying, all right, let's think about what we can do and not bemoan the things that we can't do. What are you asking your students to? How do they make life better for you? That's what it's
Yeah,
all about me, Mark. So
it is. It
that's what
is.
I'm after.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, I think I again fall back to a key improv concept, and that is being in the moment. Um, we live in a world of distraction, and in this format, again, the distractions are multiplied because you're not in a classroom where you can kind of separate yourself from the world. Everybody's in their house, and there are, you may have kids at home, you may have a dog, you may have roommates, you may have all these things, and you might really want to just kind of sink down in the couch and do the class from the couch because that's super comfy. But if it takes away from your ability to focus and engage, you're not helping yourself.
Yeah,
So we encourage people to really make even a stronger effort to be in the moment of the class, to get rid of the distractions, to put yourself in a space where the only thing for the next hour or hour and a half or 2 hours or whatever it is, the only thing that matters is what's going on this screen right now. And if I can kind of, I hesitate to use the word isolate, but if I can focus myself in that way and remove as much distraction as possible, um, even in the way I'm sitting, like this chair goes back here, but I can't sit like that. I have to sit up in the chair
yeah.
because it puts me in that space, or if I'm standing or whatever it is. And as a teacher, I even go further. Like on the day I know that I'm teaching a session, I'll make sure I get outside and take a walk beforehand. I get the air in my lungs, I get
Hmm.
moving around, get myself ready to go. So when I sit down, I'm ready to do this.
Well, one of the things I talk about very early on is that I need you for 50 minutes. That's kind of the way I start every
Mm-hmm.
class. I want your best 50 minutes on this particular day. And if you'd go to, if you played sports, if you were in theater, if you were in band, whatever it might be, you're not going to go to practice and slouch down in your chair and sit around and not give the drills the best you got.
Yeah.
You at least won't do it for long.
Right.
And so education is no different than that. And
Yeah,
so,
one of my mentors at Second City, his name was Martin DeMott. He was one of the early teachers at Second City, and he used to say, class or rehearsal or whatever he was talking about, he would say, rehearsal starts at 3:30, having had. And you'd say, well, what does having had mean? And he said, that means having had gone to the bathroom, having had eaten, having had showered. Like, by the time you get here, you have done everything you need to do to be fully present in this moment.
Yeah, because we need you.
Yeah.
Uh, tell us about just one last thing before I let
Mhm.
you go, because I know I've taken a lot of your time. But one of the things that I always think about that you've said before is about ensembles. And when I think about my class, I think about it as an ensemble. That it comes together at this one moment in time, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, but no more than a semester, for a few minutes on those days. And you don't know what that
Mhm.
ensemble is going to be like every time. And so, give me a little bit, I think, about that concept, that idea of ensembles and
Mhm.
collaboration, and why the class is only better if we're all working at it together.
Yeah, one of the founders of Second City, Sheldon Patinkin, used to say that the difference between an ensemble, which is how we work, and a team is that is the expression. They say a team is only as strong as its weakest link, and an ensemble is only as strong as its ability to support its weakest link. Because at some point, no matter what you do, no matter who you are, no matter how smart you are, no matter how talented you are, there's going to be a point in the show or in the run of the show or in the semester, where you are the weakest link.
Yep. And I know,
Nobody,
and
yeah,
that includes me. I mean, that
yeah.
absolutely includes me.
And nobody is the strongest link all the time. But the difference between a team and an ensemble is the ensemble constantly moves and flows to support the person who needs it the most at that time,
Hmm.
without question. And I think if everybody approaches it in that mindset, it really helps everyone shine. And that doesn't mean everybody's going to shine in the same way.
Right.
The work that we do, we often don't see each other for long periods of time, but we're always connected in some way. I just sent an email to a couple colleagues the other day because I came across an article in the Wall Street Journal about how, no matter how old you are, learning a new skill expands your brain, and your brain always wants to expand and grow. And I shared that immediately because I'm thinking, oh, maybe I can't use this right now, but somebody else can. And it's not a conversation we had or anything like that, but it's just that constant connectivity
Yeah.
of sharing thought and insight and information that helps us all move through what we need to move through in a stronger way.
Well, sir, I've taken your time for the afternoon, and gosh, I really appreciate you spending part of your afternoon with me, and
Always a pleasure.
informing the class about some of the ideas that they can think about as we go into new semesters, new ventures, and think about them, yes, as an ensemble that's different than any other thing that they've experienced before. So with that, I thank Mark Sutton for his afternoon with us,
Thank you.
uh, and enjoy Chicago. I hope it's as warm there as it is in New Orleans.
It's not,
Uh,
but it's
well,
okay.
yeah. Well, at least you don't have a hurricane season, so we'll
Right,
we'll
right.
we'll call it that way. Thanks again, Mark. I'll
Thank
talk
you.
to you later, and if you can hang
All right.
around just for a minute, I'll close this recording
Yep.
and we'll chat again.